Our scripture today is Matthew 2, verses 1 through 12. I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version, updated. The visit of the Magi. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born to be King of the Jews? For we observed his star in the east and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea. For so it has been written by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to be shepherd of my people Israel.'" Then Herod secretly called the Magi and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen in the east, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense,
Savior Christ, behold, within a manger he was laid, and by his side the Virgin Maid, attending on the Lord of life, who came on earth to end all strife. There were wise men from far and far, directed by a glorious star, and on they wandered night and day until they came where Jesus lay. And when they came into that place where our beloved Messiah was, they humbly cast them at his feet with gifts of gold and incense sweet.
Pray with me. Gracious and loving God, on this holy time of year, we thank you for your presence. We thank you for the great hope and promise you bring each of us for the journey ahead, for the journey we've taken so far. Thank you. Amen. Wonderful. Thanks, you guys. Beautiful music. Canon and canonic. Canon is a measuring stick. It's a way of keeping track of what's in and what's out, what's appropriate and what's not. If something is canonic, then it's part of that fit. If it's non-canonic, then it's not. It's a way of measuring, keeping track. And the reason why these two words have come back into favor in much of our world in the last 5 or 10 years has to do with fan fiction. Raise your hand if you know what fan fiction is. Think Star Wars nerds. Think the world of Harry Potter. Think the Marvel universes and all these great stories of superheroes and fantastical characters with their canonic stories. They become part of tradition and what's happened. But in fan fiction, folks say, wait a minute. I've got a story to tell about Spider-Man and what else happened in his life that we haven't seen in a movie yet. You're free to write what you want about Spider-Man, but there are a few canonic things that you need to include, like the death of his aunt, like what he can and cannot do with his webs, right? So you're free to do a little exploring. The preference is, like in a Marvel universe, what can Iron Man, how fast can he fly, how strong is he compared to the Hulk? You might want to do an origin story about the Hulk. There have been comic books written decades past that describe some of the parameters. We want to hear what you have to say, but contemporary culture today will evaluate your fan fiction and applaud what is canonic and look a little askance at what they will say is non-canonic, right? Old-fashioned religious words that have come back into play and origin stories are especially popular in fan fiction. What do we know about Superman? Well, we know his parents' name, but did you know he also had these childhood friends? Great, we want to hear it. Is it canonic? Today, we're on the edge of canonic and non-canonic. The different directions with our own journeys are diverging narratives about what has happened in the past and where we think we want to go, including essentials, shared essentials, but stretching into some other territory as well. I know a lot about this, or whatever little I know, I should say, I owe to my daughter Liz, who writes fan fiction and who won't shut up about all the aforementioned Marvel Universe. Dad, did you know that Spider-Man, you can't? Yes, it's a steep learning curve. Liz, by the way, who I don't know that you'll get to meet, Colin, but she's a music critic and would love this music. She knows a lot about music, including barbershop, which is typically not a favorite. Liz sends me endless barbershop tags. Dad, you've got to watch this 40-second barbershop tag. Is the four of them doing a really interesting chord change, dramatic close to their song. And they are really good, but I sometimes, here's another one on my phone that I just got sent. Another YouTube, rabbit hole to go down. And musicals. Liz loves musicals and won't shut up about musicals. We have for decades in the Shrumm family, ever since she was a kid, debated, what's the best musical? What's the best musical of all time? That got decided, by the way. The only discussion for the last 20 years has been what's the second best musical. And what is the best pre-intermission musical song? This is a really key component to any musical you watch, usually about 2/3 of the way through. The song right before you take a break it's the same question. It's going to describe where you've been and what those conflicts are, but make you want to come back with your glass of wine to find out how it all resolves. It's both creative and traditional. Is it Elphaba in Gravity? It's hard to beat that. In Wicked, as she rises up, and you're thinking, oh my, this is spectacular, one of the best, is it? Elizabeth would say, you can't improve on Tonight, West Side Story. By the time you get Tony and Maria, tonight, what's going to happen? The same time the Jets are saying, we're going to rock it tonight. It's a phenomenal arrangement, the way those themes interact with each other. But of course, all these fall, in my mind, second place to the greatest musical of all time, Les Mis, and One Day More. I have a friend, one more day, because you've got the romance, you've got the military folks gathering, you've got Javert and Valjean arguing, even the Thénardiers, the thieves, who are, one more day, I have a friend, I think I told you this, Norm. This is in New Jersey, where I was serving a church when Les Mis was opening. And this was late 80s. And she was crying so hard at the intermission time. Les Mis is long. One more day doesn't come for an hour and 45, so you've been through a lot already. She's crying so hard at intermission that her husband finally turned to her and said, do you want to just go home? And that's how good it is. It just destroys you. Musically weaving these impossible things together with the tension. Glorious. So Liz loves music and musicals and knows a lot about canon because it matters. What's intriguing is, even at the cutting edge of all this creativity, is the conservative nature of this. Also honoring what has been, so we recognize what playing field, what Marvel universe we're in with Black Widow, with all these people and the bad guys they're fighting. Last week I got a text from Liz saying, Dad, you got to go see this movie. And I get this a few times a year. And to tell you the truth, I take it with a grain of salt from Liz, because there's only so many movies I can see. And it's often anime and strange pieces. But then I got a text from my eldest, Kate, the more responsible one, saying, what are you doing tomorrow? My first thought was, my darn kids have forgotten where I live. They don't know that I'm not in Denver anymore. I don't think that's the case. The reality is, they had seen a movie that was so powerfully done canonically and also stretching into new territory that they had to have me see it. I don't recommend movies from the pulpit, because there's many folks who won't like them, and I don't know what your tastes are. I do have to tell you, I haven't been this scared in a movie, because then I went the next day. I had to go the next day, because otherwise Allison and others was going to start getting texts from my kids saying, Dad's sick. He has to go. I haven't been this scared at a movie since Jurassic Park. I haven't been this moved by a movie, maybe since Les Mis. And I know you're going to laugh, but Godzilla -1. I kid you not. And you can think, you're kidding me. You already know the canon here, right? It's got to be Japan. It's got to be post-World War II. It's got to be a big monster with spikes on his back. Yes, yes, yes. That's the ballpark we agree to play in. What we didn't know was how well they would do that and what other very human relationships would make you deeply, and I mean deeply, care about what's happening in that movie. A+ movie in my book. All right. Canon, creativity, non-canonic. The insight into where we have been. Last week in education time, I was delighted to have so many of you, must have had 30 of us, doing a non-canonic exploration of infancy James. By definition, that book didn't make the canon. It's about the birth of Jesus. There's pieces that you recognized as canonic in it. Other pieces we said, this is weird. No wonder Don's not going to preach on this from the pulpit, right? It still casts light, helps us explore what we believe about Jesus' birth, about our Christmas story. It stretches us beyond even as it conserves and brings forward. The origin story here in Matthew has Magi, these magicians, yes, the same word, astrologers, New Age weirdos, any of all this stuff would be how we perceive these outsiders coming from the East is important. The East being non-canonic, which direction am I facing? The West being canonic, right? The West being traditional, bring with us. The East being new, foreign, odd. This Advent, we shaped our Advent a little differently because we wanted to get the kids the whole story for a change ahead of Christmas, including the Magi, these wise guys coming in to wonder at what's going on. These journeyers, these seekers this morning is where we are. Our canon, this part of the story, in fact, what I find intriguing, our most traditional stance, even at this point of our story, includes journey. So Chuck, Cedar Hills Church, makes a good deal of being progressive and open, both theologically, politically, and the one language we like to use, wherever you are on life's journey, you're welcomed here. What a wonderful inclusive thing to say. What a wonderfully non-decisive thing to say, right? We allow that, guess what, Stu? You still get to learn, even at your stage in life. If you're just starting, you still get to learn. We're trying to cover it all. Impossible. It's what we aim for. Even as at our most staid, no, we affirm this, we're saying, and we get that faith is a moving target. Wow, really helpful. Because what you believed last year or 10 years ago might be different than where you are this morning or where you're going to be next month as we continue our journey together. Wherever you are on life's journey, you're welcome. It's a vast spread at Chuck. It's a challenge to teach and preach into as an outsider, to figure out what's expected, what will sound new to you, what sounds old and fogyish to you. Someone fed back by way of a friend, and that's fine to me, about Don. Yeah, he seems kind of evangelical. I love that. I texted my stated clerk, that's one of the leaders of the Denver Presbytery, who just sent back LOLOLOL. It's a challenge to land on a journey. Where you are in the journey helps determine how you view a newcomer to the party. We who are charged, we get paid for maintaining canon. We love that part of the story of the Magi, by the way, includes both stargazing and reading books. They're following the star, but then Herod, inquiring of the senior pastors where the child was, and they open and say, oh, it says in Bethlehem. At this point you're asking, so what was the star for if they could look in the book? We love this tension of your faith journey as well, the far out looking at stars, and you've been given the book a long time ago. Put your natural revelation with what you've been trained in. Put the unknown, your far out, weird cutting edge, with what you've been taught. That's the balance for our Magi this morning, for our stargazing. Knowing the scriptures, they searched and found Bethlehem, both west and east, both what we'd call canonic and Gnostic, 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 secret knowledge that maybe only you have. We affirm a balance of these things within our tradition, and never more so than with these Magi, who rely on both to find the presence of Christ today. All right, lastly, where are you on your journey? How did you come here? Part of the fun part of being the outsider is I'll be talking to someone and find out, oh my gosh, no wonder she was raised Baptist. That's why. No wonder she's been UCC all her life. No wonder she was this, and you start to put together the backstory of where folks have come that's informed their current journey. One of the videos I watched of Mary Sue preaching, so this is probably 2 months ago, she was talking about neuroplasticity, and I thought, oh boy, I could preach to that church. That works for me. I love that. If these people enjoy some neuroplasticity and the great flexibility, both the canonic and non-canonic of Mary Sue, we're going to be fine. What a wonderful thing to include in our mission, to be open to the journey you've been on as well as where it might go. In 2 weeks, by the way, we'll talk more about the Magi and their horizontal breadth, the weirdness of being from the East, the diversity in our congregation. I want to close instead, though, with a vertical reference to your journey. Where will you go in 2024? What will you read in 2024? How are you going to feed your soul in 2024? What are you going to dedicate yourself to that you can grow by spirit and by soul? We're going to have a shared congregational book in Lent, by the way, which is when I especially enjoy journeying internally. How can you challenge yourself that's both canonic? Even right now you're thinking, I've got a book I've always wanted to read. Someone told me I should read it. I've never gotten around to reading it. Yeah, you need to read it. And then you'll say, plus my other friend gave me this really strange book. Yeah, you should read that too. You should read both of those. Your journey that you're setting up for 2024 between you and God alone, your own spiritual quest. No one can do it for you. It's an existential challenge where you'll find meaning, health, wholeness. It's something only you can do. It's something ultimately we only do on our own by ourselves. But the fun part is that, Chuck, we might as well also do it together. Let's be that kind of church wherever you are on your journey, that we might be courageous like Magi, sharing where we've been, where we think we might be going together. Amen.